Welcome everyone to our next broadcast on Heavy Revy TV. I'm your host Brian Christian, and this is my wonderful wife Shauna, my co-host, my co-pilot.
You're so
But we're excited today. We were thinking this morning, what should we talk about? And we decided to talk about discerning the desires of the heart, because this is one that I think a lot of us stumble in. And so we want to give you guys some shortcuts and some ways in which to deal with the discerning of the desires of the heart. I wrote up a little overview of today's message above the video. And this is what I wrote. God shall give you the desires of your heart, right? While on the outside, this can appear to be a hit and miss. How many of us have claimed a desire, stood on a desire, saw what others were doing or was happening in their lives, and we were desiring that, so we tried to implement it. And we came up with a backfire. We came out with the opposite. We didn't see any results. We got discouraged, or we got more determined to press in, and we're going to get what we're believing for, and how we end up actually striving. And what is the purpose of that? And what is actually going on within you, within your heart? Are there things being adjusted in you in that process? And is there a purpose in that process of the hit and miss? Okay. All right. Well, on the outside, this can appear to be a hit and miss, but what is happening on the inside of you when the things you have been believing for haven't manifested? What is the purpose behind the frustration of waiting? We're going to look at some keys here in Psalms 37 that reveals the preparation of the heart that leads to discerning what you're actually desiring. And I think this is really important, because we can look at the outward, and the outward is really easy to get entangled in. We can look at the outward and we can get entangled in it. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause us to strive to obtain from a place of lack, rather than allowing every life situation to adjust your lens so that you can discern desire from who you truly are, from your sonship, from your spirit, rather than trying to discern it out of lenses of fear, lenses of lack, these types of things.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody who's
everyone.
just joined us. Tina, Vera, I know there's others on here. Say hi, everyone, and please like and share. I believe this video is going to help people that are feeling discouraged in this season, that feel like, giving up, that feel hopeless, because this is going to help you to posture and realize, you know what? Everything is actually good. This is good, what's going on. I believe after this video, you're going to start looking at some of the backfires in your life, saying, oh, I'm so excited for this backfire that is actually preparing me to discern what is the true desire of my heart.
Yes.
And so I'm really excited. So, Shauna, what did you want to share a little bit about the desires of the heart before we get into the scripture?
I think I thought it was interesting, because it's definitely something that, I know we've journeyed through the desires of our hearts, but also I think it goes in hand with our last video on expectations and disappointments and discouragement, because there's parts of our own desires that there are, false expectations hidden in there. And we don't know our false expectations until they are revealed. And so a lot of times we don't even know our own intentions in having certain desires until it is revealed. And so there's no shame, there's no condemnation. It's all part of this beautiful journey, this beautiful process of unveiling. And I think everyone can relate to, kind of like you said, like the hit and miss of desiring something and seeing someone else, having that being fulfilled in someone else's life, and kind of feeling left out, or feeling like, well, what about me, God? Or what about my desires? And, how is he going to make them come to pass, and whatnot? So I think it's it just kind of goes hand in hand, and it's something we all can relate to. And I feel like it's important to validate your desires. And as we unveil this, I think it's good to even know what our desires are.
Yes. Oh, that's a big one right there. For those just joining us, welcome, Danielle and Cheryl and several others here. We appreciate you coming on in and supporting us. So would you say that we don't necessarily, in the beginning of this, know the true desires of our heart in our pursuit of happiness, that we think we do?
Oh, yeah.
And is it possible that all the backfires where it seemed like they were unanswered prayers, or, you got the opposite of what you were believing for?
Yeah.
Do you think that is an interruption to our journey, or do you think that sets the stage for our journey to have the opposite in the beginning?
Oh, absolutely. You need the contradiction. You need the opposite to unveil what really is going on within you, to really just show you kind of your own lenses. That we think we're having faith and standing on something, but really it's coming out of the perception that we either don't believe God has good towards us, or his heart isn't towards us, but only for other people. Because I know I'm not the only one who has felt that. But just, not really knowing his heart, even in how he views us, or how he even views our own personal desires. And I think a lot of times my own desires have changed, and they have shifted to these big, huge, amazing, wonderful things, to finding joy in the simplicity of just being.
Okay.
And so it has definitely shifted, and there's nothing wrong with having big, huge, humongous dreams or desires. But I also was able to see kind of where I wanted to be like everyone else, And so again, you don't really know until it's being unveiled.
So what would be the purpose of all the striving and, seeing all these contradictions? I mean, obviously, the old school version of Charismania would teach us that God's testing you, and you have to pass the test, and you have to prove yourself faithful.
Yes.
And all of this in order to get the reward.
Well, that was kind of the thing in the beginning of my awakening. It was all about praying the right prayers and doing certain things the right way. And I did it all the right way, and it still didn't manifest. And so all it did was surface that belief that I already had, which was that there's something wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
It just, whatever you feel like you are desiring isn't actually what you need right now. I think we get mixed up what we want and what we need a lot of times in the whole desiring certain things. But I think it's really interesting how it unveils.
Yes.
But yeah, it's funny, the process of unveiling in our own minds.
Yeah. So would you say it's profitable then?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Nothing's wasted.
Nothing's wasted.
No.
Nothing's wasted. So really, like what Michael Bloodworth just said, he says the answer to such only manifests because one's centered on the vibration of the thing, which can be highly unpredictable. No outside forces giving or granting anything, because there is no outside force. And I think, yes, that is true. Now, to get our minds to go from an intellectual knowledge of that into the desire of the heart, or seeing how that connects with everything that looks like the opposite, I think that brings us into that realization that everything is within us. Jesus said this. He said, some will come and say the kingdom is here, the kingdom is there. Don't follow after that. The kingdom is within you. And so we're dealing with going within. We're dealing with everything we're perceiving that appears to be outside of us is an allegory revelation of what's going on inside of us. And so being able to discern the why behind the what is vitally important to getting the desires of your heart. Let's read a little bit of Psalms 37 here. And the key verse is verse 4. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Okay, so So we're looking at delighting yourself in the Lord. All right. So if you notice here, the delight is not in obtaining things. The delight is in union. The delight is in oneness. The delight is in sonship. The delight is in identity. Okay, so the delight here is focused on who you are rather than what you can obtain or what you can get. Not that we shouldn't obtain or get things, but I think a lot of the things that we are trying to get on the outside, just like Michael Bloodworth said, is really something that needs to be pulled from the inside.
Yeah.
And so like it says, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water, right? And so we want to see how do we unveil this? Well, the first 8 verses of Psalms 37 are really powerful, because hidden in them is all the things we kind of walk through to manifest desire that's in alignment with true identity. All right. Any desire you have in the beginning is going to have mixture, because there's a part of us that's trying to still validate, trying to vindicate, trying to prove our worth.
Right.
And that's where we get stuck. So and again, I'm not against methodology. Our humanity needs methodology as a bridge to discern. But if we get stuck only in the outward motions of our methodology, we will simply be caught up in what Spirit is doing rather than who Spirit is. And I know, in the days of Moses, it says that Moses knew his ways,
Right.
but the children of Israel knew his acts.
Right.
And the context there is they couldn't discern who God was, and so they were constantly committing idolatry, constantly going to the extreme, constantly jumping to conclusions or false expectations of what God should be to them in those times and moments.
Right.
And then they get offended, get mad at Moses, get mad at God, and end up commit more idolatry. And so it is important to understand that the ways of God is to discern the intentions behind why things are going the way they are in your life,
Right.
that is leading up to that embrace or a greater unveiling of truth in your life. Anything you want to share about that?
That's good.
You want me to just keep going here?
Going.
All right. So in Psalms 37, let's start with verse 1. It says, "Fret not yourself because of evildoers, neither be envious against the workers of iniquity." Now let's put that into a language that is not an us and them. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, in this verse, it's saying that in the beginning of refining your desires or beginning to discern the desires of the heart, you're going to have people in your life that are getting a breakthrough that you don't believe have measured up to your standard of spirituality. Okay. And so how many people have messed you up in your life, maybe not intentional, or have messed up other people, and you're watching how everything is being handed to them. And you're sitting here laboring, doing everything that's correct, and you're not getting the same thing as you're viewing them. Okay. Of course, this is looking outwardly, which we shouldn't do. But see, these are the things that are exposed that brings you to the place of the desire of your heart. Would you like to give an example of that or respond on that a little bit? How we judge by what other people are receiving, and we maybe become envious or jealous that why am I not getting it? Do you have something you could share on that?
No, I was actually going to talk about the fact that, so it says, "Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity." I think the envious part is when we see other people being blessed, that we, again, in our own eyes feel like, well, they've done this, this, and this. There's no way that they should be blessed because they, in a sense, don't deserve it. We do because we've done all of these things. We've all been there, whether you choose to admit it or not. But the other part was fret not thyself because of evildoers. I mean, again, how often are we judging ourselves because it's a lens of who we are or our value or our worth or what we get or don't get or what we don't obtain based upon what other people are doing to us are not doing for us.
Yes.
And so it really has, again, nothing to do with, don't get all worked up by what's going on around you,
Yes.
what people are doing or not doing, because exactly it's all within you of what you're actually looking for.
Yes.
It's not going to be in this external world. And I think it's important to have that be the first thing, that don't get caught up in what people are doing or not doing.
So in other words, the benefit of other people being blessed around you and receiving, manifesting and receiving in their life all the things you've been laboring and believing for is actually going to expose where you're still self-condemned and that is manifesting as judgment against others. So we have to deal with our own judgments, our own self-judgments.
Right.
Otherwise, the desires of our heart are going to have an ulterior motive. They're going to have an agenda. And this is one of the reasons why when we're believing for something, it backfires and we see the opposite, is not because, we're not supposed to be blessed or happy or fulfilled, but because we would never be fulfilled in the intention that's driving us to obtain that.
Right.
Because it's still out of self-condemnation, self-evaluation. Anything that we are going to judge another in, we have already condemned ourselves.
Right.
And so this is a good key here. So God is going to use things around us and people around us to extract out of us what is preventing us from truly operating in pure heart desires. Okay. There is pure heart desires, by the way. It says in the New Testament, Jesus on the Beatitudes, he says, the pure in heart shall see God. Okay. The pure in heart. Now, the pure in heart, when it talks about that, we are all pure and holy in our true identity. Right. Okay. The pure in heart there is dealing with, has the mind now come into alignment with our true identity? And in that, can we discern what the Father is doing through every situation? Because it really doesn't come down to, I will be able to discern God once I get once I get what I want, then I'll be spiritual. But it's more or less when I can discern the whole purpose of why I am walking through this process that looks like the opposite of what I'm believing for. In that place, I learn to discern God's heart. Okay, so all right.
So in a practical application, when you don't see what you are looking for, or the desires or the things that you are wanting happening, instead of asking ourselves, what's wrong with me? And if you do say that, realize that's a red flag there. That, hey, that's not how the Father sees you. That's not that's not the purpose. It's not to look at what's wrong with you, but to look and see the good in the situation, and to get his perspective of what is actually happening here. There's a bigger purpose in it. But I think we get so caught up in the self-talk of what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Why can't I do this? That kind of stuff. So if we can look at it from the bigger perspective of the bigger purpose in it, then it kind of shifts your lens.
That's right. Well, that's good. That's good. Now, when we talk about receiving the desires of your heart, realize that, sure, we can look at outward things. I mean, we're believing for a new RV, we're believing for land, and that's a part of it. But let's go inward. I've seen this more than not when I do shift sessions. The big question mark in people's minds when they come to me for a session is, well, I thought I was already healed of that. I had already claimed that. So here's the thing. Whenever you are in that emotional pain that is being exposed through all of these things happening around you that seems like it's taking you away from the desires of your heart, what the response that is coming out of you emotionally is what the Father is after. And in that place, we've got to also understand that sometimes what we are desiring is actually coming from the broken emotions in such a way that our desire to get over here and out of this is really avoidance to what's back here emotionally. And therefore, we will claim, say a proclamation, let it go. We all of a sudden feel better in the moment. And therefore we go, well, I'm free of this. Yeah, I finally got rid of that. I'm done. Yeah, God healed my heart. I'm good. Everything's been great. A week's gone by. There's been no problems. 2 months later. And all of a sudden I'm like, why am I feeling this again? And we get all discouraged.
Yeah.
You know, I thought God healed me. I thought he made me whole. I thought he restored me. And I'm like, what's going on? You know? And so what is being exposed in that moment is part of discerning the intentions of the heart, discerning what is the desires of the heart, because this is what it really means to go within. So all that we're sharing with you right now are different postures, keys, and ways in which we perceive from within us why we are going through this process of contradiction specifically and not getting what we've been believing for, and also adjusting what we think we need to believe for. Because some of what we need to believe for is coming from the broken emotions that feel neglected, that will never be satisfied if we got all those things from the perception of that trigger. Okay?
Right.
All right. So here's another one. So we're to fret not. And the second key is to trust in the Lord and do good. So shall you dwell in the land, and verily you shall be fed. So there's several keys in verse 3. All right. Trusting here is not in the sense of, well, I'm just going to believe that God's going to do the thing that I've been claiming. That has nothing to do with trust. Trust has to do with the absence of what you claim.
Right.
And still being able to be okay with whatever you're walking through that is leading you to your promised land, that is leading to the unveiling of who you are, right?
Yeah. So trust has no conclusions.
Yes. Trust has no conclusions. It has no conclusions at all.
It just is.
It is, true trust is unoffendable in its mature state. It doesn't mean that if you're going through places where you're still offendable, that you don't have any trust. There's trust there.
Right.
But the mind hasn't caught up with the true spiritual essence of who you are that fully trusts.
Right.
So it is really a beautiful thing. Would you like to talk a little bit about trust there? Or? No? Just keep going. All right.
Keep going.
So trust in the Lord and do good. Now, I like how that says it, and do good. What is that talking about there? The doing good there is not in the context of trying to claim something to get anywhere. The doing good here is resting in goodness. Okay? This is not a performance-based measuring up verse of scripture. This is trusting here, or excuse me, doing good here is connected to dwelling in the land and being fed. Okay? So that's the context here.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, so it really is. It really is. It talks about being able to be neutral. I mean, one of my favorite things to do nowadays is nothing. I like to do nothing.
There's freedom freedom in the nothing, and nothing meaning not just sitting there like a blob, but not needing to pray your way out of something, not needing to figure it out, not needing to understand, even though understanding comes. But it truly is in the nothing.
That's right. That's exactly it. Let me put this up here because that was a good quote from Danielle. She says, trust has no conclusions. That's a t-shirt quote right there. I think that's good. And it's true. And so when you can't trust, what do you think is going on? Well, the Father is trying to deal with conclusions. Okay.
And guess what? He's big enough to handle even when you don't trust him.
That's right.
Because there were plenty of times where I was just like, I don't trust, I don't believe, I don't have faith. And it's actually really beautiful because there's parts of ourselves that don't trust, don't have faith, and don't believe, but it's okay because he already knows that.
Yes.
And it really is this unveiling of coming into actually who we are And it's a beautiful journey, all of it.
Yes.
The not having faith and not trusting, all of it, because you learn to, like this says, do good, which is just coming and dwelling in the land and being fed.
Yes.
It doesn't say anything about you feeding yourself, hunting and trying to get food for yourself. It says dwelling in the land. You're simply being present, aware, whatever it is that's being highlighted to you. That's all that's being expected.
Yes, exactly. Now, what I like about being fed is something that doesn't just happen one time. Okay. Being fed is something that is constantly nurturing coming into you. Okay. Even though everything is from within, we're experiencing it consciously many a times as a giving and receiving type of experience. And so when you think about dwelling in the land and verily you shall be fed, it really has to do with the fact that if you will just simply dwell, everything that you need will begin to come to you. Okay. Now, you can't just dwell from the beginning. I mean, who we are as spirits always dwell, but we're talking about our conscious awareness as human beings.
Right.
Doesn't start out that way. No, we're trying to arrive. We're not trying to dwell. We're trying to arrive somewhere.
We need to make it happen.
We need to make it happen. And so dwelling has to do with living in a present tense place of realization. It has to do with awareness. It has to do with not just awareness of what I'm believing for, but awareness of goodness. Right. Awareness in the sense of how everything that is happening in my life is actually leading me to the desires of my heart. You know, when we're dealing with the law of attraction, that we attract what we believe. And I've shared this before. Many a times in the beginning of that, where we're looking through the lenses of lack, we're trying to believe for the blessing, believe for plenty, believe for whatever it is, the provision for the vision, whatever we're believing for, peace in our hearts, joy, wholeness, the absence of infirmity, whatever we're trying to believe for, in that place. I totally lost my train. What was I saying?
Choo-choo. Talking about the law of attraction.
Oh, law of attraction. Okay. So still early for me, guys. Yeah, law of attraction. So what happens in that place where our lens is still twisted is we're believing for one thing. Guess what we're going to draw? The very opposite. And we're going, this law of attraction doesn't work. Well, it is actually doing its work. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. Because the law of attraction is going to first attract everything you have subconsciously believed about you. That's what it's going to attract. Everything you've subconsciously believed about you that you're trying to replace with things to drown out what you've believed about you. Okay. And everybody we all need things to live in this world. You know, we need money. We need a place to live. We need food. You know, we need provision for whatever vision we have and destiny we have and all of that. So I'm not negating the need for those things, but I'm saying those become an effect rather than a cause once we have been adjusted through the law of attraction. Okay. So we're going to attract the subconscious belief about ourselves before we attract the conscious proclamations that we're trying to get. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to begin to deal with the need to obtain. Right. Here's the key. We're not here to obtain. We're here to unveil. All right. But to get to that place, we can't just tell ourselves, okay, I'm no longer going to try to obtain. Now I'm going to unveil. And then the first time we don't get the thing we're believing for, guess where we go in our minds? Why didn't I get it? What did I do wrong? Right. What happened? You know, some people might even, is God angry with me? Depending on where you're at in your journey, right?
It's true.
Okay.
Well, and the thing is that concept of some of the law of attraction, there's truth there, but there's so much condemnation and shame attached to it if you don't get what you believe you think you are desiring or focusing on in a positive way. It's kind of like, well, people will say, well, I'm desiring a husband. And if they don't encounter that,
no, you're good.
And if they don't encounter their husband because they've been focusing on and believing and having good thoughts toward it, and they don't get their husband, then somehow, oh, it's, it's because you really don't believe you want a husband, or you don't deserve a husband or whatever. Then people feel like they're shamed because their subconscious is believing something else. Well, hello, everyone has a subconscious that is believing something else based upon what we have experienced.
Yes.
And so it's okay, and there's no shame, and you can't change your subconscious. You can't just make yourself believe something, because it's all about the journey. It's all about the process of unveiling to show you what you believe, and to also find the goodness of God in the midst of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good right there. So, when the law of attraction has done its job in exposing the subconscious internal dialogue that's been against yourself, and that begins to come into alignment, then the law of completion will begin to rise up from within you. The law of completion is that which you carry within you, okay? As a son or a daughter, our sonship is based in our human experience.
Right.
It's not based in our spirituality. Isn't that funny? It's not based in you as spirit. You as spirit came into a human experience to experience sonship.
Yes.
Okay. And so, when we're thinking about, who we are in our sonship, there's a scripture that in Romans, I'm going to kind of turn there for just a second and we'll go back here. And this is in Romans 8. And I love this scripture because it gives us kind of an example of how this is played out. So in Romans 8, it says in verse 18, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." There's the internal exposing. But if you'll notice, it appears to look like suffering. And it's really the mindset suffering in its conclusion of itself. And it's coming out of that through the elements, through what is being used. And much of what is externally resisting us is a allegorical view of our own internal dialogue looking back at us. Okay. And then it says, "For the earnest expectation of the creation waits for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creation was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who has subjected the same in hope." So just realize everything vain in your life, or what appears to be vain in your life, you were subjected to for the purpose of hope being manifested. So this is, again, dealing with the mind's ability to perceive truth, intentions, the directions of the Spirit, what you really desire. Okay. And then it says, let's see, verse 22, "For we know that the whole creation groans and travails in pain together until now." Okay. So all creation is groaning. All right. And we always connect this with all creation is groaning for what? For the manifestation of the sons of God. Right. But we also see here in verse 26, "Likewise, the Spirit helps our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought, but the Spirit makes intercession for us with groanings that cannot be uttered." So we already just seen that all creation is groaning, okay, for the manifestation of the sons of God, okay? And so when we look at the groaning that we're experiencing outwardly, when it looks like what we're desiring and we're looking at outwardly is not manifesting, that's groaning. That's I don't want my creation groaning. I want my creation singing. I want my creation, rejoicing.
I want it blessed and highly favored.
Yes, I don't want the groaning. But also the Spirit searches the deep things. And what does it say here? It says that the Spirit helps our infirmities. And there's a groaning. So you'll notice here the internal dialogue of the groaning of unrenewed thoughts, unrenewed parts of our mind, and the outward is all creation is groaning to manifest your sonship. So what you're seeing here is the outward reflection of resistance, or looking like the contradiction of what you've been believing for and desiring, that's now targeting your infirmities, or everything outward is targeting your mindset. All right. so that you can begin to bring forth hope, you can begin to bring forth peace, you can begin to bring forth grace, okay?
Yes.
And so that's where all these things are happening. So when we go back here to Psalms 37, let's see here. I got to get back there. I should have marked it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Psalms 37. Okay. So God using other people getting blessed in front of you, and them seeming to be fully fulfilled, and that's going to extract out of you anything in you that's preventing you from seeing his goodness, from being fed, from dwelling in the land. And then verse 4, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. So there's two ways to look at this. It's revealing the true desire of who you are and being able to implement that. And also the other side of it is these desires are coming from God. These are him giving you the divine nature's desires. So we have the divine nature's desires, and then we have our human desires. Now, again, it doesn't mean we shouldn't have human desires. Don't get me wrong here. We are dealing with desires that are founded and grounded in lack, in condemnation, in self-evaluation, in self-preservation, that's based in rejection and hopelessness, and all of those emotional beliefs that we've adopted that keeps us striving, right?
Right.
Everybody's loving your hair, by the way, honey.
Thank you.
All right. So delighting yourself in the Lord. So the direction here is you're not delighting in trying to get the desires of your heart.
Right.
You're delighting in true identity, in union, in oneness. And in that, there is a side effect called God giving you the desires of your heart. So it's almost like we don't even have to necessarily try to obtain. All we have to do is desire that union and that oneness. What did Jesus say? Seek first the kingdom and everything is added to you. So a lot of the things we've been trying to get in our life are actually byproducts of simply embracing who we are in this life rather than trying to get. And when you embrace who you are, you begin to unveil everything you already have that's really who you are, but might be manifesting as what you have. Okay.
So many times we think we will be able to have, if we have the desires of our hearts, then we can delight ourselves in the Lord. It's almost backwards there. Like if we can just have what we want, then we will find enjoyment and joy and peace and glory and all of these things. But the fact that you don't get what you desire sometimes is showing that you really don't need to obtain anything to experience delight. You can experience joy. You can experience enjoyment, even if you don't have what you think you need to have to experience it. It's actually the opposite.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And a lot of times the things that we want are just simply distractions as well, you know, especially the outward things that we're trying to get. We're always trying to, you know, get something else. Well, I'll be happy if I get this. And then we get that. We're like, well, I'm not really happy.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the grass is greener on the other side mentality of, you know, looking for something else to give us enjoyment and joy and peace and love and acceptance and validation when you already are all of those things.
Exactly.
And it's just being unveiled that is true.
Yes, definitely. All right. Verse 5, commit your way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger, forsake wrath, fret not yourself in any wise to do evil. All right, so what we're seeing here is exposing where you internally strive. This is what's going to give you the ability to discern the desires of your heart, to, you know, from where they're stemming from, is to expose the internal striving through other people's success, okay? And what this is going to do is it's going to begin to teach you to learn a new level of trust in beholding goodness through dwelling, through resting, through being neutral, through a place of just being in that union communion and realization of God's goodness. Okay, so we come in levels of this. When we learn to enter that goodness, dwell and be fed, that's where we learn to delight. Yeah. Okay, that's where we begin to delight ourselves in really the heart purpose of our lives. Okay, and this is where, when we delight, this is where we learn how to commit. You can't be committed where you're not delighted. Okay? If you try to commit from a place of duty, you are still fretting. You are still trying to obtain. You are still operating in a lack mentality.
Right.
Okay? So delighting always brings you to committing, because true commitment is always a delight. All right? So am I doing things out of duty or out of desire? Okay? And I think if we would start doing things out, living our life from a place of nature, not from a place of trying to obtain nature,
right?
Then it would things would change. Everything would become a lot more clearer and easier. It seems that when we are committed from a place of delighting, that we begin to see things coming to pass. It says, and he shall bring it to pass, and shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. You notice here, it doesn't say he's going to bring your Maserati or your, your white picket fence and 2-story house or your farm or whatever. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have those things. But you notice the emphasis is the way in which we perceive our lives and how our lives have been treated. So we see righteousness here as our true identity. Okay. Righteousness is the opposite of condemnation or unrighteousness, right? And so I'm not seeing myself as this wretched sinner that now has to prove him or herself to measure up. I'm seeing myself as complete, as perfect in the Father's eyes. This is where delight is also connected here. You can't delight yourself in your true identity if you believe you're less than who you are, okay? But it says here that he shall bring forth your true identity as the light, right, your righteousness, and your justice or judgment as the noonday. You are coming into that righteousness which freely justifies. I think it says that somewhere, doesn't it? Let me see if I can find a verse here real quick. I think it's in Romans 5.
I was going to say, isn't it one of your favorites?
Another one of my favorites. Verse 1 of Romans 5. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom also we have access by faith into this grace, wherein we stand and rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation works patience, patience experience, and experience hope. See? So that goes along with that, okay? All right, so our ability to commit is based in the revelation that we are complete.
Right.
The revelation of being complete is because I began to delight myself. I began to let go of things that I have held against myself, presumptions, false expectations when it comes to what my life should and shouldn't look like. And I enter into a place of God's momentum and empowerment when I let go of my own ability to measure up, to obtain. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, when I think of the word commit, it's almost in a sense of like setting your face as a flint, yes, like the scripture says, but not in this battle warrior kind of phase. It's actually, there's like a shift that happens where you choose, no matter what, to see the goodness of God in this. Yes. Yeah, I may not be seeing what I want. I processed, different things that I was feeling and thinking about myself. I'm now just dwelling. You're resting in him. He's feeding. You're being fed. And the beautiful part is now the commitment of this setting your face as a flint, that there's goodness in this.
Yes.
And trusting him, like it says, to trust also in him. And so it's trusting in him that he's good.
Yes.
And there is good and no matter what the situation looks like. I think we need to throw out the concept of this is good, this is bad, this is God, this is not God, because that's what gets us caught up and stuck in this stuff. But there is nothing in there talking about good or bad. It's talking about trust, commit, delight, all of these things that you just don't naturally know how to do. It is a process. So give yourself grace as you're walking this out, but the commitment of looking and searching for the goodness of God in all of your experience, because ultimately that's what this life is about an experience. And so sometimes they don't feel so good, but ultimately with the hindsight, we can look back and see how even through our toughest seasons, our hardest situations, there has been so much love and grace and faithfulness in those seasons. And you've come into who you are right now.
That's right.
Based upon what you've journeyed in. And you've learned to see and trust yourself.
Yes. You got to learn to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And again, we're not talking about the ego side of trust, but the trust that is at peace with oneself.
Yes.
And I think what you said, you just hit it on the nail there. That was really good. All right. So when we are committed, not from a place of trying to obtain, but from a realization of what has been obtained. And that this is really dealing with, because a lot of the internal parts of your nature, like we would look at the attributes of God as merciful and righteous and long-suffering and goodness and all of those, you and God are one spirit. All of those is your nature as well. Okay. So in all of those attributes of your spiritual identity, of who you truly are, that's where the desires of your heart rest, at the heart of the matter. So that's what we're desiring. Okay. We're desiring to manifest wholeness. We're desiring to manifest righteousness. Right. We're desiring to manifest goodness. We're also seeing ourselves and embracing ourselves as righteousness, goodness, as peace, as love, as all of these sides. And in that embrace, you'll find that you enter into a reality of realization that you didn't have before. So now you're not setting your face as a flint to obtain.
Right.
You're setting your face as a flint as a response to reality. Okay. And I think that, all of us come to that place. And like Shauna said, hindsight seems to be the indicator that we're getting somewhere. And even though we already got everywhere. Right. If we can put it that way.
We're journeying through our mind.
It says, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. That's the subconscious, but it's also you as spirit walking through a mind, walking through your life, which is your mind.
Right.
And, and I think that as we realize that everything I'm putting on, to implement life, to implement truth, to implement relationship, has to come from a place of knowing it as my reality, not trying to make myself believe it's my reality. And in that process where I'm still trying to make myself believe it, this is why we need a lot of the backfires, other people getting everything we've been believing for, that's leading us to learn how to trust in a deeper way. So we've got dealing with the striving, we've got coming into trusting, we've got seeing that goodness so that we can dwell, learning to live as a habitation, learning to be fed in a deeper way, and in ways, how many times do we have favorite ways we want to be fed? We got favorite meals, right? And I think we have favorite revelations.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes when we have favorite revelations, we can get stuck only on one side and miss the rest of the story, miss the rest of your
Mm-hmm.
life.
Favorite ways of the way God, manifests.
Oh, that's
the way,
that's a good one right
all
there.
of that stuff, the way we see things, the way we plan things, all of that stuff. We get caught up in it, and when we don't see it or we don't experience it the same way, let it unveil.
Yes.
Let it unveil what you're actually believing or thinking.
Yes.
You're fretting about, which is usually condemnation and shame and self-evaluation of how you don't measure up, or either sometimes it was, God out there externally is not measuring up to what I expected.
Yes, exactly. There's a good example for that, and that's Elijah. If you remember when Elijah was running from Jezebel, he went and hid in the cave, thinking he was the only one left. And it says, and there came what? An earthquake, but God wasn't in the earthquake. And a fire, and God wasn't in the fire. And a wind, and God wasn't in the wind. And then there came a still small voice. And when there came the still small voice, it was a way in which Elijah had not experienced God before, okay, or divinity, or we could look at that as where Elijah hadn't experienced his own sonship or his own true identity before in Christ, okay? And so a lot of times we get stuck on certain ways in which we expect God to speak to us, or familiar ways in which we have experienced God before, and we try to look for him giving us an answer in our dilemma of why we haven't obtained the thing we've been believing for. And we're looking for him to confirm an answer. And he's not answering us because he's not wanting to answer that way anymore. This is why we have diversity. This is why we need to hear everybody and embrace everyone, because there's a truth in everyone that's going to help us to discern the Father in our own journey. When it comes to, when God changes it up and takes us out of our familiarity, right? And so with hindsight, and how this is connected is a lot of times we look back, and that's when we get the truth of what we didn't recognize when we were in it. And I used to think to myself, every time that would happen, next time I'm going to see it ahead of time. I must be really dumb, because I can only see it after the fact. And I thought we were doing this. I thought God was saying this. And by the time I got through it, that wasn't the reason I was going through it. It was for this reason. Why am I seeing it after the fact? And I used to think there was something wrong with me, and I just wasn't discerning enough. And really, it had nothing to do with that. It was revealing that hindsight is there to show you still got where you needed to go, even though you were blind in where you were walking. So it's not required for you to know where you're going, because you will look back and you will see the real reason of why you journeyed out what you journeyed out in the first place. Okay. And now it begins to yield fruitfulness and keys that will help others, come into their identity as well. And so it actually is an easy journey once we get that concept. Marriage becomes easy once we get that concept. Once you see your spouse's heart, then when they are upset, you're not going to take it as personal as you would if you thought maybe they had changed their mind about you. But once you know them, once you've journeyed out things with one another, all right. And so Elijah, he had a new way in which God was speaking to him, a deeper way. In fact, if you kind of look at what happened after that in his life, he was promoted. Yeah, sure. He was taken out. He looked like, what, you can't handle Jezebel. Let me just take your ministry from you and give it to another. But that's not really what was going on. What was going on was he came out of there as a father, bearing inheritance. He came out, he was told to go anoint Elisha in his place and go anoint another king. Now, he didn't anoint the other king. Elisha ended up doing that years later. But what Elijah did do is he came out with a double portion. He came out with an inheritance. He came out of the need for outward manifestations to comfort him where he was still outwardly viewed. The wind, the fire, the earthquake. I need a sign and a wonder. I need a confirmation that God's really speaking this to me. He didn't need that anymore. He now had the still small voice. He had the inward dialogue of the revelation of true identity that allowed him to now pour out and release legacy where he didn't have that flow before.
Right.
And ultimately, we want to be able to, carry a legacy for those that, we have been sent to, for all the members that are written in our book, right? And I know for me, my only heart's desire on this planet, my heart's desire, even though I love ministering to people and I love meeting people and I love seeing people set free, my heart's desire is not to build a big ministry or a big platform and to look all popular and famous and all of that.
It was in the beginning.
Was in the beginning when I was inadequate in my own belief about myself,
right. That
and my need to prove myself.
If you had a big ministry,
yes.
then you can have an impact.
Exactly.
But when you know who you are, you cannot say a word and have an impact.
Yes. And so really, for me, it's about legacy. It's about how will the next generation, what will they look like? And, and how can I contribute to, them getting to the next place they need to go in the way in which they are perceiving themselves and perceive God, and just seeing some love and some peace amongst brethren and seeing unity come, to not just the church, but to all religions, for us to all come together as one,
yeah.
I think is my desire in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
See people loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me finish this up here. So again, for review, God uses every situation, people around us that uses their success to expose our internal striving,
right,
in where we're trying to obtain outwardly what the Father is trying to align inwardly. All right. And this begins to lead us to a new level of trust in which we begin to discern goodness. And as we discern goodness, we begin to dwell in the land and be fed. And as we dwell in the land and are fed, we begin to discern new levels of goodness. So they kind of go back and forth. This allows us to be committed in such a way that our commitment is really from a place of delight. So that when we're fed, we begin to delight. When we delight, we are committed. We become secure. This is the place where we're not fulfilling our mandate in life from a place of duty. Now, here's the thing about that. And we talked about this before we came on a little bit. There are things that, and I want you to share on this one, honey, the things where we don't really want to do these things in life. You remember we were talking
mm-hmm.
about that?
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about that with everyone?
It was funny. We were talking with some people yesterday, and he was talking about just like the fact that I've had to do everything. And in that moment, I just kind of stood there and I'm like, I just became aware of the fact that there's grace. And I was like, there's nothing in me in the fact that I have to do everything. And I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to take care of, him, our children. I'm homeschooling.
Now, wait, hold it for just a second. For those of you that might not be aware, I've been going through some stuff where I've been in bed a lot. I've been dealing with some health issues. And so I would never tell her to do everything because
no.
I want to make sure if we get any newbies, they're not going, what? Why isn't he doing anything?
He's stuck in the old mindset.
Yeah, okay. So
no. Yeah, he's been not feeling well for a while. And honestly, I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, I could see just how even in my doing things, I also realized that there's grace, but I also realized I've also have balanced out areas in which I'm loving myself.
Yeah.
Going back to the gym, exercising, taking that time for me because I love me and I deserve that for myself.
That's right.
And when I didn't balance everything out and it was all about all the things I need to do and not really focusing on actually who I am, I was missing the joy and the delight and all of the stuff that I was doing.
And burning out.
And I had all of these false expectations on myself as a mother, a wife, a friend, all of these things. And so really, when we do get to that place of just dwelling and being fed and just just resting in who we are in him, in Christ, and loving ourselves, all of ourselves, not just the certain parts that we feel like are worthy, but actually loving all of ourselves. It's like all the stuff that you maybe necessarily don't want to do, it becomes a breeze. There's no, it just flows. And really, and I sat there and we were talking about it, and he was just grateful for me, and I was just grateful for him and everything else, and the fact that we could just be together. And so in the midst of what looks like we're not getting the desires of our hearts of healing and finances and, you know, launching out more, doing this or doing that, it's, you can still be in the moment and just be grateful for what you do have and looking for the goodness. And that's kind of what we experienced. And it wasn't something like, I'm looking for the goodness. It just was a flow based upon a mindset of the lens in which we were viewing. And so we just became very grateful for where we are right now, and not focusing on the other stuff of what it should look like or what our heart's desire should look like, instead of just being right now, we desire a new RV, we desire all of this other stuff, but right now our desires of being together is being fulfilled. And can we enjoy that? Can we find, you know, love and excitement in just being together as a family? And that's exactly what we're doing right now.
And I think that's beautiful, because, you know, all these other things are going to come. Those are things that are going to come forth, you know, as we learn to just simply love, as we learn to receive love and to give love. And I think that's beautiful, honey. That's beautiful. All right. So to finish up here, you know, now I've noticed here in the first 8 verses of Psalms 37, it talks about fretting in verse 1, but also in verse 7. It says, rest in the Lord, wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself because of him who prospers in his way. Now, when I look at these, twice is it talking about the way in which we view everyone else and want to, in a sense, keep up with the Joneses. This to me is the cultural influence.
Right.
So what is the culture influencing you in? Spiritual culture, the religious culture, the American culture, or whatever country you're in. What is culture dictating to you? How influenced are you by the culture around you to conform? We get caught up in this. Let me tell you, the most powerful thing on the earth is culture. It's the most powerful thing, because there hasn't been anybody who hasn't been influenced by it. Okay. And a lot of the influence by culture is the need, the desire to, what's the word I'm looking for? The desire to be a part of, the desire to connect. Okay. We are wired to connect. We are wired to be, to belong, to be a part of. Okay. Because we're all one body, right? And so when you think about that you're wired to connect, if you have inadequacy, rejection, in, you know, all of these places of feeling invalid or hopeless or worthless, you're still going to have the desire to connect. But what's going to happen is you're going to fall prey to conforming rather than connecting. And so when we conform, we entangle ourselves and we get stuck in the rat race of, again, doing what we think we should do based on what everybody else is doing. And when we don't get the same results as everybody else is getting, we begin to expose that striving that we thought we weren't striving. We thought we were just following the example. We thought we were receiving truth from what that person said and implementing it. But it backfired to expose the striving, to expose the fretting. Okay. So realize that there's a lot of influence around us. Okay. And have some grace for yourself as we come out of the cultural influence, as we come out of religious influence, as we come out of, you know, historical conclusive influence that has created triggers in our life. realize that a lot of the things that are preventing you from entering into the things you've been believing for, or that you think has been preventing you, all of those things are actually helping you to enter in. Right. They're actually enabling it by sifting and shifting the mind. Okay. Right. So we behold other people's success to expose where we're striving. That leads us to a new level of trust, that unveils goodness, that allows us to enter into a place of dwelling, or a neutral place of just simply being. And that's where we end up becoming fed. That's where there's a flow. That's where we begin to accelerate into a place where everything we're now participating in is coming from a place of delight rather than duty. Yeah. Okay. And this is the place where we begin to discern the true desires of our heart. Right. We begin to discern, the intentions of spirit instead of the manipulation of ego. We begin to see the difference between the two, and that's the place where whatever we're committed to in our life is not coming from a place of lack, but from a place of being complete. And in that place of feeling complete, we begin to discern our righteousness as light. We begin to discern the justice, the vindication of our own mindset. And as the Father begins to come in and renew the mind in that place, we enter the rest. Mm-hmm. And when we're in the rest, we wait patiently. We're no longer fretting. See, in the beginning, it was don't fret. Don't fret based on what they're doing. Come on, man, I got a deeper truth from you. Mm-hmm. The end of the matter is, I'm not going to fret. Right. I can be patient. Patience here is not, well, I'm just waiting and hoping.
I'm being patient.
I'm believing. That's not patience. Patience is, it doesn't matter if it ever manifests. Mm-hmm. I am complete right where I'm at right now.
And I think that's it. I think that's the ultimate goal that I think for me is being unveiled is the desires of my heart. Like I said in the beginning, has changed. Where not like I still desire things, but can I still be fulfilled and happy and delightful and joyous if I don't have those things that I desire? Can you still be all of the things that you want without having anything that you think you need?
Yes, exactly.
Because ultimately, we have everything we need.
We do. It says, with food and clothing, be content. That's what it says in the scripture. With food and clothing, be content. Yep. Now you think about that for a minute. All right. Does that mean I shouldn't desire things? Remember, this has nothing to do with a poverty mindset. Right. This has everything to do with why you need these things and what is driving you to need certain things or to believe for certain things, and allowing the contradictions that seem to tell you no or that backfire isn't a denial of having those things. It isn't God saying, no, you're not allowed to have those things, but he doesn't want you to try to have those things from a wrong perception of yourself, because those things will not be a blessing to you. No. You give somebody who has an addiction to materialism, you give them a bunch of money, and that money isn't going to bless them. That money is going to keep them within their addiction. Okay. But you give somebody $1 million who isn't really interested in how they can profit from it for their own selfish desires, but they have a vision for bettering people's lives or bettering the environment, or they have a vision to create something that will, help people. And that's the person that is going to be entrusted with it. So remember, everything we do in the practical sides of life, faithful with little, faithful with much. When it's talking about that, this isn't a reward system that if I do good with this, God will give me a little more. We need to let go of that mentality of the rewards system, because God doesn't work based on that system. Okay. Yes, we do reap what we sow, but we're reaping it positively to reinforce the right intention, and we're reaping consequences that look detrimental to adjust the internal desire system and place of intention, and then and the why behind the what of why are we pursuing what we're pursuing, and what is the purpose of that pursuit.
Right.
And I think that as we come into that, and as we kind of bring alignment to what's going on the inside of us, that we're not only going to deal with the broken emotional belief and wrong intentions out of lack, but as we align into the true intention, we're going to just see those things begin to happen in our lives. And it will become fluid. It will become nature, that just unveils in our life, And so be encouraged, as we're walking this journey out, you're going to find yourself letting go of the need to obtain. You're going to find yourself entering into a place of just watching and observing. Sean and I have a very short prayer request. We don't have very many prayer requests. We are believing when we have an unction to believe for certain things, we begin to move in action. We will voice it out. But I'll tell you what, when it comes down to what I think I need to obtain, I let go of that. I stopped praying those prayers. I stopped looking, because here's the thing. When you look at what you don't have that you should have, you automatically are going to put yourself into a place of striving. All right. But when you begin to say, one of my prayer requests is, Father, show me what I'm not seeing here of my completeness in you. Show me what you are emphasizing in this moment that will allow me to delight. And in that, I find that as I'm doing those things, I find all of a sudden, all of these avenues begin to open up in which I begin to become overtaken with blessings that I might have desired back here and strived to obtain, but they just become evident when I'm no longer trying to do that from that mindset. And I'm just simply allowing myself to delight, allowing myself to find something to be thankful for. So can you find something to be thankful for in your life right now? Can you, I'm sure we can find 10 things that we don't have. Can we find one thing that we do? And I think in that we find a platform and a place in which we can begin to cultivate a deeper understanding of what we truly desire and what the Father is really wanting to do through this. Any final words you'd like to share, honey, as we close today?
No, that's pretty much it. It was really good. I like what Daryl just put up.
Let's put that up real quick before we close.
Because that is so true, Daryl.
I believe even as we're being processed, the desires of our hearts are not delayed. They're hardwired in our journey. Perfect timing. That is really good. And I think that closes us out perfectly, because times and seasons of emphasis are going to be at the heart of what you are entering into consciously, of what you desire, what is being adjusted in your desire, and what is being brought forth through that desire. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we love you guys. You guys are so amazing. You've been so encouraging on here and been sharing and talking and conversing with us and keeping us flowing and going in this.
Yes.
So thank you so much. We love you guys. We do have a request, one request, and that I want you guys to keep in mind as we close out tonight, or this morning. I'm sorry, I'm for some reason think it's nighttime. And so we're not sure if we're going to sell this motorhome or not. Right now, we would lose about $50,000 on it if we sold it, because it's not finished with some things that we couldn't finish on it. But in the meantime, my son is outgrowing his bed. He's outgrowing it. We basically took out there was a washer and dryer in this, and a little closet in the bathroom, which is really a separate room. So it's got the shower over here, it's got the toilet over here in its own room, and then it's got this open area, okay, which we turned into the kids' room. We put a little curtain up for them, bunk beds, and anyway, he's getting too long for that area. It was only made for about 5'3". And so he's getting too big, and he's too big for the couch we have out here because it's a short couch. So we're needing to change that. We're needing to take, we're in the living room right now with the desk, and then there's a recliner chair on one side. So we're needing to put a long couch here and move the desk and all of the video broadcasts that we do into that room, and also build a cabinet there for a dresser for him and a shelf above, so we have storage. We're lacking on storage. Anyway, we're needing to do that, and we're needing help with that because it's going to cost us some money to do that. So if anybody feels led to help us put the kids into the living room and set them up, we can just put them on couches. We need some renovation, guys. So we're needing help with that. If anybody wants to donate towards renovation, you can go to our website, and on the donation, it's PayPal. There's a place to put a note, say this is for the kids' bed, or just put RV renovation. And that will help us do that. If you know anybody that has a decent couch that they want to donate, that would fit. We do need narrower couches, so it would be kind of an RV couch that maybe folds out to a bed, not the height of bed style, but a jackknife. We're looking for that, something that's long enough, at least 70 inches, I would think. And that would help as well. Anybody that has a large dresser, not tall, but the short, wide one, I'm going to use that as my desk, and then I'm going to put a piece of wood on top that slides out so that I can put my legs up underneath. And so we're looking to do a little renovation. I'm thinking it's going to probably cost anywhere from probably about $1,500 to do this. It's not cheap because we have to tear things out. I have to put a wall back in there. I have to do some other things as well. So pray for us, because
to figure out what the heck we're
I'm
doing.
not a carpenter. I rig things. If you know anybody that
You're
wants,
MacGyver.
Yeah. Hey, anybody that builds cabinets and beds, and you want to come over and volunteer
and help us out,
your talent, feel free. I mean, we got all kinds of ways we can do that. But that's kind of where we're at in our dilemma right now, so that our son can stretch out his legs and have a place to sleep comfortably. We want to move them out here. So we need to do some rearranging. We need to get some furniture to do it. And so any help on that, we appreciate that. Yeah, that's about it. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. And we can't wait to get back on the road again.
Yes.
That's our other thing we're praying about. So, we're not sure if this thing's going to make it across the nation. We're going to attempt it, but what we'd really like is a little 24-foot little trailer we can pull behind our truck that's lightweight, and we could do that, leave this thing parked here so we're not stuck in shops, we're not dealing with all of that on the road, and saving on gas. And we would love to do that. So if anybody has a 24-foot
that's
pull behind trailer
laying around, nobody's using,
that you want to donate, or that works too. Hey, I'm willing to believe for these things. So you know what, for us, because we're in a place of contentment where we're okay, if none of it works and we're not traveling this year, so be it. We're still happy, we're good, we'll still be on here. But I know a lot of people would love to see us this year.
And we would love to see lots of people.
And we'd even be willing if somebody donated, a cargo trailer that's fully covered, that's just empty, that if they wanted to donate, one of those taller ones that are about 8.5 feet wide and 16 feet long or 20 feet long, we would even take that and convert it. So we're needing people that have stuff that you're not using, donate it.
We'll make it work.
And by the way, we are 501c3, so it is a tax write-off. So if you do have a trailer, and I'm not sure how that works, if you can get Blue Book value for it, I'm pretty sure you would, as kind of a write-off on your taxes. That is possible. We could do that for you. So these are the things we're working on as we prepare for travel. So we're kind of like, what do? We can try this, we can try that.
Right.
We can drive the truck and stay at people's houses. I'm not really wanting to do that because I'm still dealing with some health issues,
Yep.
and we have 2 dogs on the road. So
2 kids, 2 adults, 2 dogs.
yes, yes. Don't really want to be driving around in a truck and trying to spend 16 hours to get to the next place. We don't want to really waste money on hotels and eating out. We want to be able to eat healthy food in our home. We want to be good stewards with finances. We want to do, we want to help other people rather than spend all the money on expenses that we would do doing it the hard route. So
right.
If anybody has any ideas on that or has any solutions, please reach out to us and let us know. And we really appreciate that.
Yes.
We appreciate you for all that you do and all that you are. So thank you so much. We love you guys. And we will see you. We will see you again on
Thursday at 5 Eastern Standard Time.
at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all.
Love you guys.
And also, again, we'll be opening the Shift group on Facebook, I believe Monday is the plan, because today's Saturday. So yeah, Monday we're going to open it up. We've already been adding people, so there is a post on Facebook, on my Facebook, to make sure that if you've already bought the training course, and you want to be trained as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Some people bought it just to learn about it for themselves, or they just wanted the information. But if you want to be a coach, make sure that you contact us. You have to have bought the course in order to be a part of the group. And the course is $175. You can reach out to us or you can just go to our website, go to PayPal. It's a donation of $175. Put a note in there, Shift training, and I will send you a link to download it. 12 hours of training, and you will be blessed. Okay. It comes video training as well as a workbook. And then just say, hey, and I want to be a partner, or I want to be a part of the coaching. And we will be doing some free training in there as well. Only those who buy this course not only can be a part of the coach training, but only those that have this training will be able to get the advanced training. It will not be just open to the public. I hope to bring some advanced training this year on dealing with dissociation identity disorder, bipolar, phobias, and how to break people out of that. That's a little bit different of a method from just your basic, emotional pain of rejection and these things. So taking us into some advanced postures. All right. So keep that in mind as you go forward. And I can't wait to see many of you in the Shift training group, where we're going to have a lot of practice. It's going to be wonderful.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be wonderful. We'll be doing some Zoom calls and posts and videos in there as well. Love you all. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will see you all Thursday. Bye-bye for now.